There we go.
Hey,
Good morning,
hey, good
everyone.
morning.
Good
You are
morning.
watching the chat session lineup on the This Way Network, and I'm your host, Nina. And there, I'm pointing the right direction this time, is my co-host, Rodney Allen Ribby on the end. And right between us, we've got our special guest, Theresa McGregor. And I can't wait for you to hear more about Theresa and her book. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Truth Heals All Wounds. A very,
That's
very
right.
important book and a very good book. I have read it, and I can tell you it was already very helpful to me. So, but
Yeah.
Rodney, I
Yeah.
heard some news just a few moments ago about something we
Yeah.
talked about last week, which was
Yep.
Michael Jordan winning the Daytona 500, but he's done something else now.
Yeah. Well, Daytona 500, that's one of the biggest races in NASCAR. And so we're real excited about it. And audio is coming in by Hyosung. Big shout out to a sponsor, Mr. Yu. Mr. Yu is a sponsor of the Hidden Pioneers. But the key thing is Michael Jordan, right after the biggest race of the year, which is Daytona 500, he comes back to back and he wins in Atlanta. So check this out, everybody.
Reddick trying for two in a row. Briscoe trying to redeem a tough day in Daytona. They're going to come off turn 4 for the final time. Chastain to the bottom. Briscoe to cover. Tyler Reddick, 2 in a row.
Can you believe that car just won? He's got right from Fender.
What do you have to say about 2311?
I mean, really, I can't say anything. Tyler did an unbelievable job. I mean, both teams did an unbelievable job. And look, I wanted one of them to win. You know, I feel bad for Bubba, obviously, because he had an unbelievable day. And I'm very happy for Tyler. I'm very happy for 2311.
MJ, I know you've watched this sport your whole life, but how fun is it to be here and be winning at this level in NASCAR?
I mean, you know, the guys worked hard all summer, you know, and I know we had our little ordeal, but they never gave up. They kept working hard, and this is the fruit of their labor. You know, they put forth the effort, and, you know, for us to come out and win the first 2 races says a lot about our whole team.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did you find a way with this beat-up race car to go back-to-back 2 weeks in a row?
I mean, that's crazy, ain't it? How about that? Echo Park Speedway.
Oh, hey, you
Oh
see
my
that?
goodness.
Woo, woo, woo. So
That was tremendous.
Yep, Michael Jordan's he's pretty awesome. And his team and his drivers out there, man, he's got a couple of mean drivers out there. He actually had a guy in 6th place, so he was 1 and 6. So they had another guy that was coming up to the front, and we're really excited about him. Just continued success to Jordan Motorsports and all the big things that he's doing in motorsports. Also, real quick, our colleague that's been on the show, Bill Montgomery, this coming Friday, people, if you don't have anything going on, please make sure you come out to the Global Diversity Summit. This is the 6th annual Hidden Pioneers event that's going to be out at the Downey Space Center, and it's going to be a great time. It's no cost to the public, no cost for parking. Come and learn about NASA, stream education at science, technology, research, engineering, the arts, and math. Make sure you come out. Also, CEO from Hyosung, Mr. Yu, will be in the house, one of our sponsors, and many other great sponsors, many other VIPs. So make sure you come out to the Downey Space Center. For more information, go to www.hiddenpioneers.com. I'll put that in the chat, hiddenpioneers.com. And we are back with our wonderful guest. And we are so excited because Nina said, hey, we got a great guest. Again, the chat session here on This Way Network, it welcomes Miss Theresa McGregor, and she's an author and so much more. And I'm going to let Nina do the great introductions. So there you go.
Well, I don't know how much more you want me to tell, Theresa, but I've actually known Theresa for several years now. She and I are in the Juice Plus company together, and that's how we met. She's a wonderful friend. She's a very good counselor. So I was particularly excited when she wrote the book. Can you see that? There we go. There it is right there.
Okay,
And
okay.
she gave me the opportunity to be an early reader, and oh my goodness, I had no idea how much it was going to affect me and
Mm.
how important it was going to be. So let's start at the beginning, Theresa. Why did you write this book?
Well, I had a friend tell me for years, you need to write a book, as she would see my story and watching what God would take me through and his faithfulness to me. But this book, I wrote this book because I really realized how many women are functioning well on the outside, but on the inside, they're struggling, they're hurting.
Mhm.
And after college, I hit a season where I, was emotionally isolated, right? So I grew up in
Mhm.
a home where you felt happy or angry, and that was about it. I didn't have any other
Mm.
words for my emotions. And so when I hit this hard time, I didn't know how to talk about anger or sadness or fear, or I didn't know what to do with them. And I ended up, not like really having a hard time functioning, right, in the adult world after college.
Mhm.
So therapy, I got into therapy. Therapy gave me language. And then through that, God gave me healing. And I realized so many women need more um, help in this area. They don't need self improvement, they need healing and
Mhm.
permission to feel, right? So this book is what I wished I'd had in my 20s and,
Mm.
and what I want for my daughters,
Yeah.
as well.
So I love what you just said, permission to heal
Mhm.
and permission to feel, I think is what you said. Isn't that right? Permission to
Mhm.
feel.
Right.
So how is it you felt like before you wrote this book that women didn't seem to have permission to feel things? What was it you were seeing that maybe either in your own life or I think you just explained that a little bit, but maybe in other women around you that you noticed we didn't have language for that?
Right, right. So I think what happens is I often explain that like you have a wound on your arm, and
Mhm.
so we bandaged it, right? And we
Mhm.
sort of can forget about it. And then somebody comes along and bumps that, and we're like, ow. And a lot of times we do this, get away, get away, stop bumping.
Mhm.
I don't want to hurt. I don't
Mhm.
want to feel this. And so, but if we instead we can allow God to allow God to say, use that person to bump it and go, oh, there's something here. And if we could unwrap the bandage, allow God to come in and heal this, then
Mhm.
when the next person comes and bumps us, we're okay. And we can stay in
Mhm.
relationship, we can stay in connection with people, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that's what I would say, that the importance of healing. And so, but if you can't name it, you can't
Mhm.
feel it, and if you don't feel it, you can't heal it, right? So, and if I don't let people bump me, I don't feel it
Yeah.
either.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So why is it so important to name it? I mean, you just said if you can't name it, you can't feel it. So I
yeah.
don't know. My initial response the first time I was reading that, and of course
Mhm.
I got further and I realized where you were going with it. But initially I was thinking, well, maybe if I'm not feeling it, it's just not there. So why am I trying to name something that isn't there?
Right.
Mhm.
But it is there, right? You've just covered it. You just did a good job. You
Hmm.
put bandages on and you covered it. So
Hmm.
you can sort of forget about it. But that's not God's heart. God's heart is for healing and wholeness. So God
Mm.
Hmm.
allows circumstances or people or life events to keep bumping us. And,
Mhm.
Hmm.
my hope is that I think sometimes it gets bumped and we just don't know what to do. So we just do this. So I think my hope with this
Hmm.
book, now when people get bumped, they go, ooh, I need to pay attention to this. God, what is this? What do you want to do here?
Hmm.
You know,
Mhm.
and then I wanted to give women an opportunity to go, okay, how now? If I allow myself to feel
Hmm.
it, now what do I do? How do I walk through to healing? Right.
Mhm.
Hmm.
One,
Hmm.
I think knowing you have the steps gives you the courage to let yourself feel it because you'll know
Yeah.
there is a path. There is a way forward through this. And we should, like, there is
Right.
this is something we should heal. It's not something we should just, cover up,
Right.
hide. Mm-hmm.
So, Theresa, I have to, I want to bring something in it's a little personal. So if I get weepy, sorry about that.
Mm.
I'm used
Yeah, I bet you are. When my mom passed away,
Mm.
that was one big event that had happened in my life. But at the same time that my mom was diagnosed and passed away just a few weeks later, my marriage fell apart. And so it was a very devastating time for me. After my mom passed away, I realized I'm not okay. I can't stop crying. And I feel like my feelings are just very close to the surface. And like you said, I did not want people bumping up against that. And you realize you're pushing people away because you're afraid of, you know. So I went to a grief share class, which I highly recommend grief share. That's wonderful. And if you can do that, that's fantastic. I went to a grief share class and they were talking about the need to express these things, to get them out. And then they had, a period after we watched this video where they're, going through the workbook. And I am sitting there with tears in my eyes and I'm just barely holding it together. And then the facilitator says, Nina, I think you have some big emotions there. Do you want to tell us about them? And I just sat there and thought, how dare you call on me when, I'm just like barely holding it together. And now you're just going to make this, and I just kind of shook my head. And he said, we're not going to force you to do anything. He said, does it feel like if you allowed it to open up, that it would never stop? And that's exactly when all the tears just finally shed. And all I could say was, yes. I was scared to death that if I allowed myself to really feel that sadness or that loss, that it would break me. And I would never be able to come back from it, that I would never be able to stop crying or, be happy again. So I was just trying to hold it all in, which of course is doing you a lot of damage. But that's when I got your book and I started reading that and how you were talking about leaning into those feelings and being able to name them. And it made me think of that particular incident and what a difference it made for me, for somebody else to come along and basically kind of hold my hand and say, you're safe right here. You can talk about those things. And because we've all been through it, we can tell you it's not going to break you. It is going to help you heal, to get it out, to be able to talk about it, to have words for it. But your book went even further than that for me, because it was really easy to say, I'm afraid. I feel sad or whatever. But like you, I had a very limited emotional vocabulary. So being able to pinpoint how I felt, what I felt, and actually put it into words, I had no idea how important that actually was. So talk to me about emotional language and why we need to be able to be more specific about how we feel and what that does for us.
Well, one thing is, I think the gift they gave you is to say to you that grief is survivable. So the reason when your mom, I'm just guessing based on just sort of my own experience and working with other women, is that when your mom passed away, that grief you were allowed to have, because everyone understands that you lost someone. But what happens is we have all these griefs and they just build up and build up because we don't address them, right? It might be, as a child, you moved a lot. Well, did anyone sit down with you and help you to and process the fact that you're leaving your house and your friends in your neighborhood or your safety? We don't. We just pack the kids up and move. And sometimes we just they're so young, they don't, they're flexible, whatever. And it's okay that we're moving them, but we need to help them to grieve, right? Well, when you don't, grief is like Velcro. It just keeps sticking and sticking and sticking.
Mhm.
Then when your mom passes away, it's not just your mom that you are grieving. It was all these other griefs that got stuck. And the message is, well, grief is not survivable. So as a little kid, I don't know how to survive this. If we don't have attuned parents that meet us in that place and walk us through that, we don't know how to do that. So we just sort of stuff it and think grief is not survivable. So so it's a couple of things, right? It's being able to have that language yourself so that you can, and that awareness, right? So that you can do that with your, I mean, that's part of this book, right? Is this generational, like my hope is this generational legacy that what I'm learning, my kids are learning, and they're going to be better, with their kids than I was with them, right? That's always is I'm really honest with my kids about, I did not like the woman who wrote this book is not the woman who parented my kids, right? I've learned and grown so much. And so my kids have great needs, my girls. And I'm really honest with them about that and go, yeah, you've got your own healing work to do, because mommy wasn't, the woman that I know now. And I will be with my grandkids. I'll be better with them. But it's just, that is, right? Each generation, hopefully we grow and learn and get better. But without being able to put words to it, and you can start with basic words, mad, sad, glad, bad, scared, right? So I love in the back of the book, I have this feelings wheel, and I just love because it takes the basic feelings that we all know. Where is my feelings wheel? In the back here, and helps you to give greater words to it, right? So
yeah, there it is.
You can Google feelings wheel, and you start in the middle with, I'm angry, and then you can come out a little bit and go, is it threatened, hurt, hateful, mad, aggressive, frustrated, critical? Well, when you can put more words to it, you can communicate more, so for me as a, college student, I was just angry. What do you do with that? But when I could say, hey, I felt really criticized by you. Now there's hope for repair, right? But what I can say is I'm angry. I just didn't know how to repair it, and I didn't know how to move forward. So as I got more understanding, and understanding of what is that emotion, right? Like anger was just destructive in my family, right? So you just try not to do it. You try to manage it, right? And what I love, anger is not something, I don't ever teach anybody how to manage their anger. I don't do anger management classes. It's not about managing anger. It's about understanding the gift in anger and what God's purpose is in anger, right? So that's what we talk about in the book is anger has a gift because it has a purpose, and we don't want to just shut it off. We want to press into it. Each of these emotions, that's the purpose of the book, is helping us to understand what is the gift in each of these emotions so we can press in and use these emotions to heal and to grow.
Miss McGregor, I got a quick question. We see, as life goes on and we look all around us, it seems that people are very insensitive these days. They're growing more and more blunt. I'm going to tell you my opinion. I think that, this is how I feel. And, and there is a lot of truth, but there's also a lot of opinion. And sometimes people's opinion are not fact. And so how do you feel? How should people deal with, because, you're on the job, you're dealing with everything from political differences to religious differences to so many different other things. What would you say is a good way for people to kind of, work through it?
Yeah. I mean, I again, because of my life experience and my background, I would say there's more underneath, right? So if someone has this strong opinion about something, usually because there's some wound under there,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you can either argue the opinion with them, or you could ask, hey, you sound wounded. What happened? And try to get to that,
Right.
deeper level
Right.
with them. And
Wow.
is
That's really good advice. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of, because I see people are so ready to let's go, we're gonna duke this thing out either verbally or whatever. And I think sometimes because I've been involved in entertainment so long, I've had a ability to kind of keep my brain advanced and keep my mouth, a few seconds back, because people say things and I hear them. I heard it, and I'm just like, don't react, don't.
Yeah.
You can even ignore it, actually. And I had a guy that I was talking to, and he was being kind of strange, but he said something kind of insulting to me. I made him say it two times, and he said, he was talking, and he came back in the conversation. He said it again, and so I didn't say anything. And then on the third time, I said, I understand how you feel, because I was already ahead of him, but I was like, I am not going to get into a verbal, back and forth. And I just think that it's good for us to keep our stress down. And I think dealing with these pains and these issues, like you're saying, and knowing that wound, you can figure out where this thing is going before it happens. So why even go there?
Yeah. So I think that's the point, Rodney, is through
Mhm.
something like this, being able to know your feelings, you'll have more self-awareness. So when stuff happens, so anger has a lot of different values to it, right? So when you feel angry, it's worth going, what's the problem here underneath this anger, right? Anger will protect grief. So if there's grief getting surfaced and I don't want to touch it, I'm going to get angry because I don't want to feel this grief, right? Or it could be somebody disrespected my boundary. So by having, like what you're saying, Nina, by having a language for it, even if it just is within myself to say, oh, okay, I'm really angry. What's going on? And I can come back inside me and go, oh, I'm angry because they just, disrespected my boundary. Oh, all right. Well, let me restate my boundary again and, and be real about it. Or, or I say, okay, this person continually disrespects my boundary. I think I'll just put space between us. But that can help us to contain our emotions so we're not spilling them out all over the place.
Sure.
So I think that awareness of, okay, what is it that just got stirred up for me, and coming back in here and doing this work rather than what I did before I understood all this is I did so much of, like, people would hit my wound and I'd be like, stop touching me, get away from me. I did a lot of this pushing back. So when I learned to that self-awareness, when I got hit, I could go, oh, hold on, time out. I need a minute. And I could go and go, oh God, what's here? This is hurt. What is this that's hurting? And how do I address it? And so I share a lot of examples of that in the book. This book is people know me. They're going to know me really well. I just share a lot of to walk through that, because I just, I want people to be able to see it and try it out for themselves, maybe. So
yeah, I love that you were very personal in the book. You without oversharing, I think, but you let us know that you have lived this yourself. You've walked through this yourself, had those emotions, survived them. And you're basically saying, here's what helped me, but also here's what I've seen help other people as well. So I want to go back to something you put. It was one of the first things I read in the book, and it really caught me by surprise. And I'm quoting here. In the introduction, you list, quote, the emotions we tend to avoid as sadness, fear, anger, and gratitude.
Right. Yep.
And that's the one that caught me by surprise, the gratitude. I was like, yeah, sadness, fear, anger, I get why we avoid those. They're scary. They feel like we're losing control or that they're going to overtake us. But gratitude? Why is gratitude in the list?
Well, because we can tend to use gratitude to bypass pain, right? So we can be told, well, you just need to be thankful. This could be worse. Other people have it worse than you. Look on the bright side. I've heard that as well. And so what happens then is premature gratitude can silence grief. And so you want to be able to, have true gratitude that's not denial. That's like I talk about, gratitude is not pretending, oh, I'm okay. And it's actually walking through the wilderness, but holding God's hand. So I'm not denying the wilderness. I'm not walking through the wilderness, but I'm walking through it, holding on to God's hand. So I think, when gratitude is rooted in reality, not avoidance, that's when it can become really powerful. So,
So I liked I liked in the book how you addressed that and the way you talked about that, because it made me. I started noticing that every time I was on Facebook, someone had announced the death of someone in their family or a dear friend, and then in the comment section, I began to really notice the, here's my empathy, but, and that what came after the but was the gratitude part that seemed to me like, it was almost like it was saying, yeah, you can grieve for a little while, but then you have to quit, or then it's time to stop because there's something to be grateful for. And we need to remind you about that because obviously you've forgotten it because you're grieving. That's the way it felt.
And what you might see is those are probably the people who haven't grieved. They haven't done the work. So they're not comfortable with it. So they're like, "Ooh, that's not comfortable." So you who've gone through some good grief work, I'm sure you didn't, you just got in there and felt with them and sat with them,
Yeah. Well, not anymore. I mean, I remember a time I would have been that person who put the but in there. It's like, oh, they're so sad. But if I remind them why they can be grateful, then they'll feel better. That's what I was thinking. And I know everyone means well when they do that. But yeah, there were of all the things that people said to me when my son died, who were trying to comfort me, the one that I remember the most, and I thought, what a wonderful thing to say. I'm going to start saying that when I'm talking to someone who's grieving. And it was a man I didn't even know very well. And he came up to me in the reception line at the visitation. And he just looked at me with a lot of, empathy on his face. And then he said, I hope it helps somehow to know how much we care. I thought, oh, wow, what a great thing to say. I can't think of anything you could say that would have touched me more. And it was the one thing that I went away remembering. And I still say that myself because it does help a lot to know that others care.
And it's that sense
we don't necessarily need those reminders, but you need to be thankful too.
We need to be held. See, what happens is in grief and fear and anger, whatever it is, we just need to be held. And a lot of us didn't get that growing up. We weren't held, right? Stop crying or I'll give you something to cry about, right?
I heard that a lot.
Right? But so I think that's what's happening is even as adults, there's little girl parts of us, little boy parts of us that didn't get held, that didn't get attuned to, that didn't get seen. And so that's what's coming out, and what he did was he just held you for that few seconds. He said, I hope you know there's people that care. He didn't try to fix you. He didn't try to make it better. He just sat with you. And that's as healing as anything.
Teresa, do you think, it's funny because I was sitting here thinking about things. I think that honesty, personal self-honesty is something that, because if you know that there was something either in your family or past relationship or something like that that troubled you, I mean, that was maybe unresolved and it was unresolved, do you think that is something before the bump that people should deal with, ahead of time so that you can kind of think back and kind of clear that thing, because now it's a knee-jerk reaction.
Yes,
Yes, you've been wounded if you can.
I mean, yes, but a lot of us don't know it's there until it gets bumped. Like that's
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
if you know,
but we know what hurts. But we know what hurt, right?
right,
So
right.
that's the thing, that we know what hurts, and that wasn't cool or whatever it was. We know that.
Yeah.
So I think the things that we do know, we should kind of personally address and, take that to the Father and try to feel and say, I kind of feel this kind of way. And then that works and builds on our prayer life. It builds faith, it builds hope and understanding and stuff like that. And then when you take it to the Lord, you kind of really, you have to feel that you really know that he knows more than we, and there's a reason for all these things. Some of the stuff could have been avoided, possibly, but a lot of times I tell people, you got through it. You're past that point. I know it was traumatizing, but you're ahead of it. If you just keep going and deal with it, recognize why you're angry, but to try to get over it and keep pressing.
So there's a couple of things that will make that difficult for some people, right? Is you're asking them to be attached and connected to God when they don't have that experience as children.
Yes, I'm good.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, hey, go and hang out with, you're like, I don't know that I can do that. Like I didn't have safe relationships, right? So there's that. The other problem, which is why they need help. Like there's just some things you're not going to do apart from community. So you need a therapist or you need a book, to support you and say, hey, I didn't even think about that. Right. Until you hear someone else's story or you, and the other point is that whatever you went through as that child, you learned how to cope and deal with, right? So you're coping. And what you need to realize is that what worked for you as a child to get you through, which was God's gift, and we're so grateful, right, that God gave you that coping, whatever it was. But that coping now is not good in your adult to adult relationships. And so that's where we have to recognize, oh, this isn't working in my adult to adult relationships. What worked as a child doesn't. And so that's like, I hear you, and it would be great if we could all just go and deal with it. But some of that's not going to be dealt with until we've gotten enough healing. Obviously I go to God very quickly now, right? When stuff comes up, I do deeper work with him.
Right.
I couldn't back in college, but I didn't even know what I was feeling or understand the roots of it, right? So I had to start and work through that. So, but yeah, it'd be great.
I think, I think sometimes a lot of those wounds, we tend to think of the ones that we recognize as great wounds that happen pretty much at once, like there is a loss, a death, or a move, or some moment you can point to. But I think sometimes some of those wounds start out as little tiny cuts.
Yep.
And then eventually it's like death by 1,000 cuts, because it keeps getting cut again and opened up and opened up. And sometimes I think after a while, you're like, I am aware that I'm hurting, or I'm aware that I'm angry all the time, but I can't figure out what I'm angry about. Because there's no one thing that you can go back to and say, this was it.
Yeah.
And that's when you need help.
Yeah. So we talked about in therapy, we talk about capital T trauma and little t trauma, right? So yes, what you're saying is we're all aware of the capital T trauma. It's the little t trauma that we don't like that. Like, oh, I got a little cut. I don't even know where it came from, right? And I got another one. I got another one.
Right.
So,
and you think to yourself, because it looks, when you look at that one thing, it looks so minor. You think, well, this shouldn't bother me. I should get over this quickly. But then when there's repeated cuts and they don't all appear the same way, they didn't come through the same avenues. Then after a while, you really are thinking, like, maybe you notice not only does something hurt, but you're actually noticing there's spillover from it. It's like there's drainage coming from this wound. And but I don't even know how I got this wound. I don't even know what's draining out, but I'm just aware now that it's affecting my life. Maybe I'm depressed all the time, or maybe I feel angry all the time, but I don't know what I feel angry about. Or other people are letting me know, hey, you're kind of prickly. It's really hard to get close to you. But you're so oblivious. You're like, well, I don't know why they would say that. And then you get offended even about that. I'm very open. I think I'm very open. And we just don't know.
See, I think that's where your childhood coping, you think I'm coping. This has worked. It worked for me in childhood. And now an adult, your adult friends are going, yeah, that's not working anymore.
You're right.
Right. And it's recognizing that. Yeah.
And you talked about the emotions as gifts, as doorways to healing. So what do you mean by that? And then I'd like you to follow up after that with, you talked about pressing in. And when I first started reading your book, I found myself thinking, so I become aware of all these things I'm feeling. What then? And she's talking about pressing in. How do I do that?
Yeah. So, so we had played around with the title of the book being The Gift of Emotions, but then ended up with what I think is much better. Truth heals all wounds. Not time. Time does not heal all wounds.
No.
You can live with it a long time. If you don't bring truth into it, you're just living with it longer. So my son-in-law helped us with that title. So shout out to Justin for that. But so emotions are signals, right? They're gifts. Like God gave us emotions. We're not supposed to be emotionless. They're not the enemy, right? So sadness tells us that something mattered. Fear tells us that something feels unsafe. Anger tells us that something is unjust. And then gratitude tells us that something is life-giving. So where we feel gratitude, we want to press into that space more and get more life from that space, right? So when we can listen, so like sadness will take us into seeing what is this grief that I have been holding on to that has felt unsurvivable, and we're recognizing, like what I said before, how grief will sort of stack up. And so to see that and be able to go and begin to release it to the Lord, right? And in my book, we talk about how to take sadness and how to hand it over. I don't think we were ever designed to carry sadness, right? If you go back to the garden, everything should have been provided for, right? Sadness is all about loss. There was no loss in the garden. We had everything we needed. I just really don't think we have a capacity for sadness. So sadness feels so heavy and burdensome because we weren't supposed to carry it. And so we need to go find those places of sadness and hand them to the Lord and let him carry them for us. He doesn't get rid of them. They're truth, right? It's not a lie that he replaces. It is truth. Like there really was a loss that occurred, whatever that was. But we need God to carry it for us so that we can be free and, moving forward in life, right? And then fear really addresses some of those core beliefs and those lies. Like underneath fear oftentimes is a lie that I'm believing. So if I don't address the fear, I miss out on finding the lie so that God can come in and replace it with truth. Truth is what frees us, right? You shall know the truth and the truth will set you free. So So we want that. Anger is a lot of times about unmet needs. So, if I'm feeling angry and I don't pause and go, okay, why am I angry right now? What's the need? Or like we talked about, what's the problem? Like anger is a great problem finder. So when I feel angry, I do want to stop and go, oh, I'm feeling angry. Oh, okay. What's the need? Right? Like, what is it that I'm needing right now that's not getting met? Why is that important? So I can go meet that need, right? And not waiting for someone to come and meet that need for me. No, I can take responsibility and go meet that need, whatever it might be, right? So if I'm angry because my friend blew me off and didn't show up for lunch, well, why am I angry? Oh, because I was needing connection. Okay, well, let's go call somebody else and get connection. If this friend can't make it, let's go find another friend who can, or some time and say, God, I need some time to sit with you. I need some, connection with you even.
Theresa, would you say, because sometimes I think anger can be kind of healthy because to keep things bottled up, but it's got to be controlled. Some people go from 0 to 100 when, with it, emotion and things like that. And as Nina had talked about, there are these cuts in life, and everybody's got little cuts, but people are salty and they're abrasive and they're intentionally salty, and they like to throw little jabs in there. And the one thing that whenever I think about anger, whenever I get angry, the first thing I think about is this justified? Do I have a reason to be angry? I mean, because I try to hold back the anger as much as I can. And I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of guy, but you try to hold it back. And I think of Jesus in the temple with the money changers. And he walked in, he's like, what are you guys doing? And just the fact that they said he put kung fu and everything else, and he whooped everybody, cows, money changers, turned over tables, and he turned the place out. It was empty. They said he had supernatural power. I had a pastor who was preaching about it. He goes, can you imagine him just like literally throwing people out? And I was like, wow. But when you think of certain things, I think that one thing that we have to remember, we need to remove certain people from our lives. If certain people are creating problems and havoc and stuff like that, you need to remove these people and put that distance, as you said, Theresa, between you. Because some people, you just got to kind of step back and put a little distance between you, because if they're causing, trauma and that saltiness in your life, sometimes you just have to step back a little bit.
So I think one of the things that we see with Jesus, when you were talking about him, his anger and clearing the temple and stuff, is one of the things that we're so impressed with is that Jesus contained his anger. Right?
That's right.
So yes, he cleared the temple and stuff.
Yes, he did.
Him yelling and cursing and screaming and losing. Right? He used the anger to say, hey, this isn't okay. And anger then became his energy, right?
Right.
So I think some of us, like is this the whole point? Like, so we're afraid of our anger. We're afraid of that energy, right? But anger, it is energy, and we need to know how to move it through our body, right? Because you're right. We don't want to stuff it and end up with ulcers and other things. We don't want to explode and hurt the people around us. True. So we want to acknowledge the anger. We want to go and look at, okay, what is this anger trying to tell me? And I have a bunch of different ways to look at that in the book. And then you do want to let the physical energy of the anger move through your body. So whether that means you go like this and relax, whether that means you
go for a run,
do some wall ups. Like, you do need to move the energy. It does have a physical energy component to it. So,
and you can get benefit from it.
Yeah.
And you get the benefit.
Why not?
Right.
Yeah. So
I think, talk to me about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just not being I think we're afraid of anger because we haven't seen it well contained before.
Right.
And so I'm hoping that as you have some ways of working with the anger, you won't be afraid of it anymore. And we talk about anger is a great problem finder. Soon as you find that, like if you pause and go, oh, I'm really angry. Okay, what's the problem? Blah, blah, blah. And I figure out the problem. The anger's gone. You'll be so amazed. You're like, oh, it's just gone because it served its purpose. And then it's not there, So even with the book, like, I guess one of the things I want to say is I love, like, this book does have chapters. You got to move through it, right? But I hope that it's a quick read. Like, it really is. If you don't stop and do all the journaling, it can be a quick read because it's really designed for that. Like, for you to be able to move through, like, so you might be reading through the grief section, and then you can't really sit with it. You're like, I'm not able to sit with this. And you keep moving through fear. You get to anger and you're like, oh, so anger will sometimes protect grief. So until you work through the anger stuff. So then you work through the anger stuff. Oh, now all of a sudden you can start accessing the grief. So you go back to the grief section, right? And work through that. So I'm really hoping that this book is like a field guide that you carry with you. You're going to pop in and out of different sections at different times. And some of it's like that, like your gratitude is going to make so much more sense after you work through those other chapters, and you'll know how to pull it into, but at the same time, you got to read the gratitude to know how to pull it into the grief. So I'm hoping that, as you read the book, you're reading it, and it's not a novel. You can't go from beginning to end. It's in and out and back and forth, and hopefully something that you keep picking up at times.
Can you tell the titles of the chapters? How many chapters are there?
14, I think.
Oh, okay.
15, because I broke it up. So it's got the 3 sections. It has sadness, anger, and gratitude, but then there's chapters within each of those sections. So and then the last section is carrying it forward, and that's really when talking about how emotions can become a field guide, and how to, because when you understand your emotions better and you're able to hold them better, you're going to be able to then see it for other people and offer help for them, right? Like we were talking about, when you really feel your grief and you know what to do, then when you see other people in grief, you know how to go, oh, they just need to be held. They don't need to be fixed. They don't need to be explained. I can hold my own sadness. I'm not going to be able to hold somebody else's, right? Until I know how to see anger as a problem finder, I'm not going to be able to help other people to see that. So that's the carrying it forward. And then obviously generationally, like, I'm very excited for this to be a book that gets, from generation. The more I can do, and the more I'm able to sit with my children in their emotions, right? So
wow.
So we're actually in the last 15 minutes of the show, and I still have so much I want to get to. So I'm going to roll us along, if you don't mind. Talk to us a little bit about mixed emotions. Because I know when my mom died, and, at the same time my marriage was falling apart, and I'm going through grief share, and I thought, my reason for being in grief share was, I have just lost my mom. And that was a huge loss. And I thought all of my emotions were about that. But come to find out, as I was going through grief share, no, a lot of it was anger over the loss of my marriage and over what my spouse was doing and not doing. And then I felt disloyal to my mom to not be grieving her. When it seemed like it was about him instead of about her. And I was like, no, that's not fair to her. She deserves to have my attention and my, so, and it felt so mixed. And I imagine for people, especially for caregivers, too. I was a caregiver for my dad for about 5 years. And toward the end, I remember having those mixed emotions because I was relieved for him that he was finally out of the striving and the suffering. And yet I was also, and I felt guilty about this, relieved for me because it had been 5 years of caregiving and I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And I felt guilty about feeling relieved for my own sake, especially in comparison to what he suffered, because I was like, well, yours was nothing compared to his. So talk to me about mixed emotions.
So I love that. And even what you were saying, like, as angry as you were in your marriage, you also had a lot of grief. You lost. You didn't just lose the marriage, but you lost all the hopes and dreams that you had for that relationship, right? So you lost the past. And sometimes when a marriage ends, and I don't know your details, but like my marriage ended because of betrayal and lying and that.
Same.
All the past memories got like I don't know what to do with them because they didn't feel real anymore, right? Like, oh,
Right.
real. So I had to leave that. But you also have this. So what I would say is the anger was just unprocessed grief of the losses of some of that. And then some is the anger is the advocacy, right? Standing up for yourself and saying, hey, I deserve. So grief is such a beautiful thing because I can say, hey, I don't have what I want and I deserve that, right? Like I deserve to have fidelity. I promised it fidelity. I deserve to have fidelity and I didn't get it. So there's anger, but I just still think the anger is sort of protecting the grief that needs to be acknowledged, right? The anger feels so much stronger and safer, especially after going through such a big loss, you know, and all of the ups, you know, your world gets like flipped upside down, right? The divorce. So anger feels steadying and solid. And so we sit in that for a while and that's okay. And then we just want to keep going deeper into the grief that's in there as well. And I get what you say, you know, obviously when I lost my son, there was so much difficulty, right? He wasn't this beautiful, easygoing child. He was a lot of work. I mean, he grew me a lot. And so it's the same thing. Like there is some one is there's the mercy. I see God's mercy in taking him so he didn't have to suffer the consequences that he was going to be having to walk through. I mean, you could pretty much see what was coming for him, right? And yet you're right, like the relief for me that I didn't have to walk through those difficult years with him. You know, now would I have, of course, but is there a part of me that's just grateful to know he's in heaven and he's safe and, you know, and to be done? Like, yeah, I don't have that heavy caring role anymore. So I understand that. And I think that the guilt, you know, is like you have to release that and say, no, this is, you know, your nervous system can only handle so much. And so caregivers, you know, we do have to put some boundaries around that. And I don't think it's talked about enough. So we feel guilty because nobody else is saying, hey, wait a second, take care of you, have some boundaries, you know. And I love this. I'm in this caregiving season with my husband. He's got cancer right now and it's been intense. And I love that there's people that get it. They come up to me and go, how are you? How are you doing? What do you need? And it's not just about him. And I'm just so grateful to have that. But you're right, Nina, the guilt, you want to say, it's okay. I need to rest too. My nervous system has been, you know, going at a pretty intense pace and I need to break, I need to rest. You know?
And then there's that dissonance sometimes between the way you think you ought to feel and the way you really do feel. And then you feel guilty about that too. Like I must be a terrible person because I'm actually glad this is over, but I shouldn't be glad it's over. I should be wishing they were still here, or, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
So could
So,
you
so
use
you,
grief
yeah,
to help you in that? In other words, can you grieve that I don't have, like with your dad, right? So you're grieving that, yes, I'm caregiving for him, but that's not the relationship I wanted to have with my dad.
right, right,
So then can I just
yeah,
be truth? Like grief is just being truthful and just
mhm,
true. I don't have the
Mm-hmm.
relationship that I wanted to have with my dad right now. I didn't
mhm.
want this for my relationship with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
That
just
is
honest.
so, yeah, that is so true, and I'm so glad you said that because I remember having a talk with my siblings about that. I was Dad's, they didn't live nearby, so they couldn't be here all the time. I was his primary caregiver, and my relationship with him had to shift.
Yeah.
And suddenly I couldn't just enjoy being his daughter, which truthfully was what I wanted to be able to do. Instead, I had to become a whole different figure in his life. And then I felt like he lost the benefit of just
Uh,
having a daughter that,
yeah.
so I remember I talked to my siblings. I said, if you could call him, y'all take turns, and one of you call him every evening. So he has the opportunity to talk to one of his children and have that
Mm-hmm.
relationship that I
Right.
can't give him right now. Because when I come over, I can't sit down and just be with him. I have to take care of the meds and the laundry and the cleaning and the cooking and and
Wow.
I still have my own household to take care of.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you said it that way because a lot of times that's something we don't recognize that we're missing, and you end
Mm-hmm.
up with a certain amount of resentment, but you're not really sure why, especially when you chose it. Like
Right.
I was
Mm-hmm.
happy to
Yeah.
be my dad's caregiver and to be able to do that. And yet, I didn't realize that I was going to have to give up that daughter role at the
Mhm.
end until I was already in it. And so there was a little bit of resentment that I had to do that
Yeah. You didn't choose
there.
it,
So,
but it's given to you. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. So it was very much the mixed emotions, you know.
Mm.
I wanted to touch briefly, we've only got a few minutes left. I just wanted to circle back around and touch briefly on something that Rodney had brought up before about when other people are exploding at you, when you're bumping up against their wounds that you didn't even know they had, and they're reacting. And your suggestion of that response of, asking them, hey, I sense that you're wounded. I sense that there's a story there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, tell me about that. And I've encountered that a couple of times, but well, more than a couple in my life where you say that to people. And I want to bring this out because I want people to know you may get a reaction from them that is not the one you thought you ought to get. And then you end up thinking, oh, well, then that wasn't a good thing to do. No. um, they may turn to you and go, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. The problem's with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just lash back out at you, and and you're like, okay, I guess I was wrong. But no, you weren't wrong, because you're letting them know, we all can see the wound. We all can see the evidence of the wound. And whether they
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge it right then or not, you planted a seed later for them to be able to ask themselves, how come she said that to me? How come so even if you don't get the response right then, and sometimes you do get that response, they just start melting and, yes, I lost this loved one, or this has happened,
Mm-hmm.
or, and that's the one that you're hoping for, the one you're expecting. But when you get that other one, that more abrasive or that pushback, that doesn't mean you were wrong about asking that question.
Right. They're just not ready to, like, you hit
Mm-hmm.
them, and they went, no, get away. I'm not safe.
Right,
Feel safe. And
right.
you're not necessarily the reason they don't feel safe. I mean, that's some of what one of the other pieces that I try to get to in the book is our inner child. So it's not that the adult me isn't safe, but there's a little me inside who's not safe. And sometimes that little me sort of hijacks my adult brain. And I start acting like this little 8-year-old, and I mean, you'll see it. You'll see people, Rodney, you were talking about this, they're having almost like a 2-year-old temper tantrum. They're an adult. Well, that could really be their little 2-year-old part of their brain that got triggered. And yes, they're actually in their little 2-year-old self. And, it needs to be, they need someone to say, wow, that's a really big emotion. Can I hold you? Like what would you do with a 2-year-old having a temper tantrum? Right.
Right.
Hopefully if you're a healthy parent, you would say, wow, that's a really big emotion. Can I hold you? Can we let me hold you and help you, integrate that big emotion. So sometimes you'll see people and you're thinking, oh, he's acting like a little boy. Well, that's probably true. That wounded part of it just came up. And,
Yeah. So the last thing I want to ask you about, you have letters to your daughters in the book, which I loved. I love the way the book is laid out. I love the journaling prompts and the opportunities. But talk to me about those letters to your daughters. Why were those in there?
Yep. So, so much of why I wrote this was to pass on that generational healing. And I wasn't that mom that I wanted to be, that I feel like I could be now for them. And so I recognize that I guess it's just my way of going back to them and saying, I want to share with you what I know now that I didn't have for you then when you were little. And here's here's what I wished I could have given you and what I want to give you now. Now I know these things and I can't go back. I would love to. Oh gosh, wouldn't we all just love to go back and do it and do it now with the wisdom that we have. And I can't, but I think those letters was a little bit of me doing that and saying, here's what I wished I could have said to you, or here's what I wished I had told you about sadness, or here's what I wished I had known about fear when I was, in fear with you and not containing it and not dealing with myself. And it was coming out on, here's what I wished I had known and what I want for them. Right. Because my greatest desire is I didn't do it perfectly. And we've been really open about that. I've been really open about that with my kids because I want to be honest so that they can grow and heal and do it better. And then the next generation does it better and the next generation does it.
Wow.
And what do your daughters think about this book?
So yeah, they love it. But it was hard. Like my one daughter, she was just so honest with me. She was sitting here, and she was reading my book and she says, Mom, I love your book. And I didn't get this mom. Right. And so she starts sobbing, I'm crying. and it's true. It's true. Right. This author was not the mom she got. And so I just got up and hugged her and held her and, and I helped pay for her therapy. So, she's got inner child therapy work that she needs to do because, I didn't know this then. And, but that's my hope is, okay, I do know what I do know now, and even like even after this book, like God's taking me, through another season and I'm like, oh gosh, there's a whole nother chapter I could have put in this book.
Well, maybe there's another book in store.
There is. So really for women, I want to write it again for the masculine mind and emotion, just for, and I want to write it for parents and I want to write it for marriages. Cause I just feel like each of like keeping the same emotions and stuff, but helping to say, okay, how does this show up in marriages? How does this show up in parenting? So it is the first of a series. So thank God, for the timing of writing those future, but that is the 4 that I'm hoping to eventually have as part of the series. So, but men are reading.
I'm encouraged to hear that.
It is, it's.
I don't doubt it, and I think they could. I almost was. Yeah, I was almost, but not quite. But I was almost sorry that you had a woman's guide to emotional healing. I thought men could use this too, for sure.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And
youth.
We are and youth.
Yes, and
so that might be a 5th or 6th book for you, because a lot of young people are dealing with trauma because of parents. Youth come up and they are carrying stuff that, I mean, they were just innocent little people, and it was the parents that brought, and they had to kind of ride along with all this crazy stuff. I have to say, I'm very thankful. I thank God. I lost my mom when I was 18 years old, but I have to tell you, my mom gave me enough in 18 years to carry me a lifetime. And thank God that my mom was dialed in. It just seemed like she was a country girl, and she was, just that mom, that nurturing kind of mom, and guidance. I mean, my mom was not easy. There was not, my mom was like, Rodney, stop that foolishness. And I was like, oh, okay, Mom. So, I had a lot of fun as a kid, but foolishness, my mom, she'd let you have a little fun, but when it got foolish, Mom, Rodney, stop making that noise. I was like, okay, Mom, no problem. Anyway, but Theresa, thank you so much, everybody. You've been watching the chat session on This Way Network. We have had with us Miss Theresa McGregor, Truth Heals All Wounds. Make sure you get that book. It's fantastic. We're going to hopefully hear from her again. Thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate it.
This was such a great experience. Thank you.
We do. Oh, it has been for us too. Thank you so much. And for those of you who want to get your book, and I hope there's going to be plenty of people out there who want to get your book, Theresa. The link to Theresa's website and the book in particular is up on the screen. Please use that and go check it out. One of the most impactful books that I've ever encountered.
Thank you.
And so we're out of time. There's Mika on the screen there with Rodney. Mika's looking to go outside, I think. So
yes, she's want to go.
Yeah, so we need to go ahead and say goodbye. Thank you so much, Theresa, for coming today. And thank all of you for joining us. Have a wonderful week, everyone. And remember, be of good courage, because God is with us and we aren't alone. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. And make sure you get down to the Global Diversity Summit. Again, make sure you pop in if you can, right there at the Downey Space Center. We want to see if you can come by. Students, parents, educators, dignitaries, and supporters of STREAM education and vocational education. Thank you so much. Thank you, Theresa, for being on with us. God bless you. Continue success with your book, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Blessings.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, all. See you next Monday.